Ronna, always so good to have you. I'm glad that I know that a month ago or so, you had tested negative for the coronavirus. I think you had been under the weather. We're glad you're well. Hope you're staying healthy, and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. And I'm saying hello from the police state of Michigan, where I live under the martial law of Gretchen Whitmer.
I just some of the stuff that I have seen coming out of that state, whether it is non-essential items that are mere inches from your hand over a rope, you can't buy those, and that includes seeds and everything else, and some of the other policies that she has put into effect. This goes way over the line, and it makes even regular, average, everyday, common sense people not want to follow reasonable guidelines when you overstate your authority or go over what you are allowed to do, as Whitmer is doing here. And I know that there's been protests against her today. How are Michiganders? It seems like she's becoming really unpopular really fast.
She is, for a variety of reasons. She really has been seeking the national spotlight while missing things in her home state and not taking input from business owners and the legislature, and now from average citizens who are saying enough is enough. Trust us to be able to go into a store and social distance. I mean, we're a state where you can't mow your lawn, but you can't mow your grass, but you can smoke it. All the pot stores are open, but heaven forbid you want to go get a car seat. It's just crazy. And the schools, I'm homeschooling now. We all are. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. She completely abdicated any type of oversight in the school. So every school district is having to craft their own plan. They're all scrambling because the state said, well, we're not going to give you guidance. You guys figure it out. And so she's been a mess for our state. And I hope at some point the media will catch on to these governors who are putting these huge power grabs on the citizens of their state, and the people of Michigan don't like it, and that's why there's a big protest today in Lansing.
Yeah, it amazes me what they will focus on and what they won't focus on. As you said, any kind of state guidance as far as what other school districts are doing, because obviously at some point these kids are going to be tested as to state standards, and so all of that lack of continuity there is going to show itself at some point. But then yet she'll focus on the car seats and the seeds and all of this other stuff. It's insane. The president yesterday, in announcing a defunding of the World Health Organization pending review, which is a long time coming. The World Health Organization has responded, as I'm sure, Ronna, you're aware of. We're talking to the GOP chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, and they have said, we regret that they've made this choice. And then it was almost like they were not almost like they were trying to emotionally blackmail us, as if to say, well, without these funds, then all of these poorer people in poorer countries are going to go without. But isn't that something maybe perhaps they should have thought of before spending more on travel than on supplies twice over? There's been a long problem with the WHO that is still on Dr. Tedros's watch, and even before him. So this has been a long time coming. Tell me about this, and if you think there's any chance for the party to support, or even the president to reintroduce a commitment to the WHO, and what that would require.
Yeah, I have to say, and I can't speak for every Republican, but I'm so glad the president has done this. And I think the president has done this since he's come into the office, where he's challenged these relationships we have with organizations like NATO and now the WHO. And he's saying that U.S. is spending so much money and we're giving so much capital to these organizations, and other countries aren't stepping up to the plate at the same level. And the WHO, they have one job. This is it. All they have to do is look out for a pandemic, and they failed. That's all they think about all day long. That's all they should be focused on. And they failed in getting into China, in letting the world know that this was a transmittable by human-to-human contact. And I think the president is spot on by calling them out and saying no more unless you get audited and we figure out what's going on, and calling attention to the failures of the WHO.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that he did it, and I love that he is doing that with so many of these different organizations who don't seem to be fully serving their purpose, and they always rely upon the United States to fund everything, yet they give deference to countries like China. Moving to the economic recovery, and I know that this is something that the party is exploring how to best to do this, while also respecting the vulnerable demographics, but we also can't have a vulnerable economy because then it becomes an issue of national security. What do you think that reopening is going to look like? What do you anticipate that looking like? And obviously, and I don't want to make it about politics to this point, but I have to say, Ronna, and I know you're aware of this, there are certain states, because of political ideologies, that have done better with their state economies and have been better stewards of taxpayer dollars and thus are in a better position to handle this and reopen more so than other states. What does this look like going forward, knowing that every state's different, but what are you anticipating?
Well, I think the president is obviously going to take into account the science. He cares about the lives of every American, but he also recognizes that we need to have livelihoods and we need to be able to work, and our economy needs to work. And so it's a balancing act. There will not be a one-size-fits-all approach. I think you'll see different states opening at different times. He certainly probably won't push every state to open at the same time, especially those that are having these outbreaks and haven't peaked yet. But what I will say is the president is incredibly thoughtful about this, and he's listening to everyone, business leaders and the science community, and balancing how do we get America working again and keep us healthy.
Right. Yeah. And that's the best way to do it. And I think he's always really gone by the 10th Amendment. I know that he got some criticism from, I'm happy to see that the left discovered the 10th Amendment. I think if that was a lesson that he intended to impart upon them, Ronna, that was pretty brilliant. The Small Business Association, I know you've been really focusing on this. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, fighting against additional funding for that Paycheck Protection Program. And I was reading a report just a little bit earlier where there was a source saying that the SBA is going to have more money for this because it's going to run out, if not today, then meet this week. Where do we stand on that? And do Schumer and Pelosi, I don't understand how they can justify this.
I don't, and I think the American people have to wake up and really push back on Democrats who are not extending the funding for the PPP loan project. You know, we're at $296 billion of these loans have already been put out, and we're about to reach our $350 billion cap. And this is a lifeline to small businesses that employ 50% of the country, and it's allowing them to keep people on staff and keep their businesses open as we get through this crisis. And to see Schumer and Pelosi hold this up for, again, their partisan ways or their wish list and not to just make this a clean bill is really shameful, and it's a disservice to the millions of Americans who are being helped by this great program.
Yeah, we don't need anything else in this proposal from them other than just getting the help where it needs to go, because ultimately, I mean, and Ronna, this is how I've been explaining it to people. It's kind of like a quasi eminent domain where, because of a pandemic, your ability to conduct commerce has been taken. And so this is our money anyway. And it just makes no sense as to why they would hamper the release of that. And yet I would imagine that if these businesses don't hire or put back to work the people they have to furlough or lay off, then they're going to be attacked for it. I'm just looking forward to seeing that in some of their campaign ads. So, yeah, but they can't have it both ways. I hope that can be solved.
Yeah, I think it's such a great program that it's giving the money to the businesses so they keep the people employed. And this is the greatest way to help our economy open up quickly and have these businesses intact instead of dissolving. And what will that do to our country when we do reopen? So, you know, Democrats, of course, you know, they're pushing their partisan ways. They tried to put election reform in that first CARES Act. Everything that they're doing right now is hurting the economy, and especially this. I think small business owners across the country are watching Democrats and saying, why in the world are they not getting us this relief?
Yes, I hope more people ask that as well. Last quick thing for you. We're talking with Ronna McDaniel, GOP chairwoman. The New York Times is not new in practicing bias, but I thought this was pretty amazing. It came out during an interview that the New York Times admitted that they dropped this story, Tara Reid, the Biden accuser, because the Biden campaign complained about this. And it's not really blowing up in the press. And I was actually really shocked that this was admitted to. This is incredibly important because these same people tried to railroad all of President Trump's nominees for the Supreme Court, anyone that he selects to really ultimately take up anything. But the Kavanaugh thing was really, truly the watershed moment. Your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I put out a tweet today that even showed CNN mentioned Kavanaugh and Chrissy Blasey Ford over 600 times, and they've had not one mention of Tara Reade. And none of the vice president's potential running mates have weighed in on this issue. I mean, if this were a Republican, this would be blowing up everywhere. It'd be wall-to-wall coverage. And it's amazing the past and the hypocrisy that we are seeing in how the media, the New York Times and CNN, these Me Too movement vehicles, that they're not supporting this Tara Reade and at least bringing her story to the forefront.
Yeah, not the same at all. And of course, this kind of stuff is what really causes individuals to not have faith in media. And that's why they agree when the president says fake news. The media can sit here and say, oh, when the president, Republicans say this, they're attacking the press. But I would think that misleading the people itself is more of a passive attack on the people that they claim to serve but betray with their coverage. So, Ronna McDaniel, we appreciate what you do. We give you prayer for continued wellness and safety and your voice in this time. We're grateful for you, and thanks for joining us today.